You're listening to Trek FM.
Hello and welcome to From There to Here, Trek FM's 50th anniversary rewatch of Star Trek, in which we look at all 729 episodes from beginning to end. I'm Mike, and today I'm joined by Davis from the Fandom Podcast Network. How's it going, Davis?
Wonderful, Mike. How are you this morning?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for joining us. I'm obviously you're a Star Trek fan, but I can tell by the all the ships on the wall behind you. But where do you fall in the Star Trek spectrum? What's your favorite Trek and what's your least favorite and so forth?
I have to say probably my favorite Trek is Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
That's the one. It started when I graduated high school, and I basically grew up going to college watching Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. So, and, I really don't have a least favorite. Probably Voyager, because I didn't get to see it that much. But Deep Space Nine is my favorite. But, I've enjoyed all of Trek, so I don't really have a least favorite. I have some episodes I just were like, I can do without.
I think everybody does. Yeah. Well, today we're going to be talking about both Voyager and Deep Space Nine, Mortal Coil from Voyager, and the Magnificent Ferengi from DS9. So let's just jump into this and get started with Mortal Coil. This is the episode of Voyager where Neelix dies in a freak accident, and after being dead for about 19 hours, Seven says, "Oh, I can totally bring him back to life using, Borg technology." So she does, and Neelix is, happy about being alive and everything, but he's also kind of freaking out because when he died, he didn't go to Talaxian heaven. There was nothing. It was just. So he's having a crisis of faith, and the episode sort of deals with him sort of coming to terms with his not near death, but death experience. So what did you think about Mortal Coil?
It wasn't bad. I think how Star Trek reflects life in general in everything we do, and I think sometimes each of us have that little bit of crisis of faith. Where we have to wonder, is everything that we've been believing or everything that we have thought about in our entire life is completely wrong, or is it just this one instance? I love the quote that Chakotay says, don't let one crisis of faith, don't let one thing happen that disbelieves your entire faith, the whole way. So, and one would have to think, if Seven says he's still functioning, was he really dead? Or,
Yeah.
according to, what species is Neelix again? Talaxian.
Yeah.
If his physiology, if he was really truly dead, or if he was almost dead, to quote from Princess Bride.
Yeah, I can see that for sure, and I think that's, if I was trying to console Neelix, that would be like the first thing that I would say to him. I think coming at it from the other angle too, it is an interesting topic to deal with. They do this on a very large scale, like, he's dead and there's no heaven, that kind of thing. But I think that you can sort of like dial that concept back a little bit to something which I think a lot of people, have dealt with and still do deal with, over the years, where whatever mythology or religion that they believe in, a lot of times there are things which are built into that to explain the unexplainable. And as we progress through history, science is slowly starting to come up with explanations for these things which in the past were explained by faith. And I think lots of times people who believe in these things need to try to reconcile that. It's hard to do. It doesn't have to be as epic as there is no heaven. It can be something as small as let's say evolution. Not that that's small, but that kind of thing. So it's definitely something that I think everyone can relate to. Not to mention the fact that I have sort of had this exact crisis that Neelix is having. Not that I've been dead and found that there's no heaven, but I was raised Catholic and everything like that, and slowly over time I stopped believing in that, and it was really freaking hard because you have that sort of like comfort in knowing that there's a heaven, and if you take away all that and you're like, this is it, when you're dead there's nothing, like that's scary as hell, and it freaks me out to this day, even though I've sort of like come to accept it. It took me a long time to come to accept that. So I think that it is interesting that they chose to tackle this, and I think that it's something which is definitely relevant to everyone in one way or another, and I think they handled it pretty well,
Oh, absolutely. It's like you were saying, you were raised Catholic. I was raised Southern Baptist, and I've had that time where I've had that crisis in faith, and amazingly enough, I've always relied on my faith to get me through, many things in life. And in some ways, it's strengthened my own beliefs, and it's made me see, it's like at the very end when Naomi, who just pictured Neelix's afterlife, and it almost was it just takes the childlike faith, childlike wonder, just to believe, something simple it could be. And sometimes we have to remember that. Yeah.
So yeah, on the whole, not a bad episode.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. A little clunky at times, like, he tells the story to Naomi at the beginning, and then he dies like 5 minutes later, and it's like, oh, I wonder if this is going to be about the fact that there's no Talaxian heaven that we just learned about 5 minutes ago. There's that kind of thing, but whatever, we'll forgive them. It's episodic television.
Well, and one thing that you have, no spoilers ahead, but this Borg technology is never used again for anyone.
Right. Everyone complains about Into Darkness, and it's like magic con blood. Everyone's immortal now. It's like, yeah, well, they did that here first. Voyager did it first, So.
And I still want to know who Species 149 was, who actually had this technology. They just mentioned that was the name of the species or the designation of the species, but they never mentioned who they were.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
I like that you just hear about it in Borg terms, which are very cold, and it's like, whatever. It's like, they're not described as the people with the crazy foreheads or whatever. It's just like Species 149. You don't need to know about them. It's all good. So, yeah. All right, well, should we move on to the Deep Space Nine episode for
Absolutely. Let's do that.
The Magnificent Ferengi. This is, the Magnificent Seven, but with Ferengi. Basically, the Dominion capture Moogie, and now Quark needs to assemble a team of Ferengi to go to Empok Nor and get her back. So, and hijinks ensue. So, what did you think about the Magnificent Ferengi?
I love a Ferengi episode. The Deep Space Nine did an awesome job of making the Ferengi stand out much better than their counterparts of the Next Generation, just because they gave them more character. They made them almost more of a comic relief, but they made them really stand out for sure. And this episode is really standing out because did anyone else think that when you first see the opening scenes, it was the Defiant had just come back from a secret mission, and you're wondering, what's this secret mission about? We never touch on that whatsoever.
Yep. And I think that's cool, and like throwing in things like that really sort of adds texture and scope to the overall series, because it's like they are in the middle of a war at this point, and there are secret missions and everything, and we don't need to hear every single beat, of the war, but just little things like that. It's like, yeah. And then to still in the context of this war, to be able to tell a story like this, which is just so crazy and fun, I think is really exciting. And the way that they used like a lot of the elements which had been established prior in different contexts in this crazy, weird little comedic episode, I thought were great. I mean, there's Empok Nor, which was done in like the horror episode, Empok Nor. The fact that the prisoner which they're exchanging, the Vorta, like he comes from I think it was Rocks and Shoals, or the earlier in the 6-part arc that we just saw, where he's a big bad guy, and here he's used as just like a prop in a comedy, like physical humor, and it's like that's so great that they're able to, nothing is precious in Deep Space Nine. They'll go wherever they need to go. They'll do whatever they need to do with these characters, and that I think makes it really, really great. That's one of the things which makes this show so great. And I don't know, are you a fan of the Magnificent Seven?
Yes, I am. And I haven't seen the newest version, but I do love the original Magnificent Seven. I thought it was really great. And, who is your favorite of the Magnificent Ferengi?
I guess I would have to say Nog, probably, because he was so hardcore about it, and everyone else was just, they had no idea what they were doing. What about you?
I have to say Lek was probably my favorite. The Ferengi, what is it? I forget what he was actually called, but at the very end he says, "If you ever want to do anything this harebrained crazy again, call me."
Yeah. It was pretty great, and the way that they did, sort of use their, they did what Ferengi do best in order to get her back. That there's no way that you can, out Dominion the Dominion, but if you use what you're good at, maybe you can get what you want. And yeah, it's a solid episode for sure.
Oh yeah, it would be a keeper.
I think it's one of the better, if not the best, Ferengi episode that they've done.
Oh, absolutely. And to top it all off, we also had a guest star, Iggy Pop.
Yeah, how could we forget about Iggy Pop? And he's so good. He's so dry and everything, and he's like the perfect Vorta, and he's perfect in this in this context. I just love how he's so sort of like fed up with this whole situation, and he just wants to get it over with. It's great. All right, well, that takes care of these 2 episodes, but we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Deep Space Nine and another episode of Voyager, Waltz and Waking Moments.